So in the last lecture, we were studying about that what the basic concepts of object-oriented programming. We created objects. We discussed about static and non-static and how a static item can be accessed and how a non-static item can be accessed. Apart from that, we discussed about basic drivers. How would we be able to open a browser instance? And how would we be able to work with it, right? How we need to say declare a class, how we need to declare an object, right? So apart from that, we discussed about constructors, right? And there is a system class static, so we would be discussing it about it in some time, right? We have already discussed it, but so I have not mentioned about it. So let me just mention it right now. Now the next thing is that how constructor can be used. We have already discussed about it. We have discussed about Chrome driver. We are not going with Internet Explorer and Edge driver. Apart from that, what we would be doing is we would be going with Firefox driver. Okay, these are the two major browsers which are used everywhere, right? Be it say Chrome, say Chromebook, Macintosh, or Linux or Windows. These are the things that are used everywhere. So we would be going with these two browsers, right? I would be discussing about how we can work with Edge browser and Internet Explorer driver as well. That is not an issue. There is not much of a difference, right? Now over here, today we would be starting with interfaces first. So let us just discuss about interfaces. Then we would be moving on to the say Selenium once again, right? But before that, we won't be discussing about Selenium again, right? So what are interfaces? And this would be the question in your mind, right? So let us just start with the say practical concept right away, rather than discussing it over here. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to close this older project, right? So close project. Now over here we would be creating a new project, and I'll name this project as day 3, right? So day 3 and finish. Now over here what needs to be done is we would be creating few classes, right? And before that, we would be starting with, before we create any class, we would be creating an interface, right? So before creating an interface, let me just give you an idea about interface, what it is and how it is used. So let us go with the practical example, right? So suppose there are some set of rules which are predefined, right? And for example, we have phone. Right, we have different phones from different brands, right? Now what features those phones have? The first basic feature is calling, right? Now this is one of the basic features. Now another feature is, say, what it is doing. Yeah, so another basic feature is, say, SMS, right? And say there are other features as well. They are not mandatory, but there are two features, that is calling and SMS, which are mandatory, right? And the third thing is caller ID, right? Now these are some set of rules which are specified for everywhere, right? For phones everywhere, right? Now suppose I'm having a phone, that is this phone, right? And suppose you are having this phone, and the third person is having this phone, right? Now the first phone is from the brand, say, Motorola, right? Now the next phone is from the brand, say, Apple. And the third phone, this is from the brand Samsung, right? Now over here there are 3 different brands, but the thing is that there are few things that we need to implement. That this should have calling facility, right? Calling, SMS, caller ID, right? In the same way, Apple should have some of its functionalities, right? But they include calling, SMS and caller ID, right? In the same way, these things should be here as well. So calling, SMS and caller ID. Right now you might be confused that why am I typing these things again and again, right? Why am I specifying these things again and again? Now the thing is that these are the three companies implementing their phones, right? But one thing is common, that these have to implement these three features everywhere, right? They have their own way of implementing these features, but they have to implement them. Right now, with the help of interface, we can tell these companies that this is the thing that needs to be specified, this is the thing that needs to be specified anyhow, and this is the thing that needs to be specified anyhow. They can have their own set of features as well, but again there should be some basic features that should be provided, that is calling, SMS and caller ID. Right now they have their own way of implementation, so what we can do is that we can implement these things. So in interface, what we do is that we specify some basic set of rules that would work. Right now, let us see that in the in the code view. Right. So in Eclipse, what we would be doing is we would be creating a new interface, and I'll name this as phone. So phone. Now over here, I'll just click on finish. Now here in this phone interface, it would simply look like a class, but it is not a class. So we cannot execute an interface. But what we can do is that we can we can make a class implement this interface. So we would be specifying few things inside this interface. So the first thing that we would be specifying is, over here, what is the basic feature, right? We have the basic feature call. So we would be specifying it something like this: public void call. Right. So we can make a call. Now over here, we can have another feature as well, right? That is SMS. So public void SMS. Right. Now over here, these are the two things that we can specify. Right. Now the thing is that how would we be able to implement these things somewhere else? So let me just create a new class, and I'll name this class as Apple Phone. Right now there is a class Apple Phone which would be implementing a interface which is phone. Now how to make a class implement the interface, right? How to make a class know that this is the thing that it needs to implement. Right now over here we need to type in something, that is implements. So implements phone. Now the moment I type it, it would be auto completed. Now the thing is that if you notice, there is some error. Now it is telling us that we need to implement the abstract method phone. Right now over here, the moment I click on this, you can see that there are two functions created. We did not define these functions over here. Sorry, we did not describe these functions over here. We just named these functions. We just defined these functions. Right. So definition is there, but description is not there. So description would be provided by this particular class, that is Apple Phone. Right now over here, what we would be doing is we would be specifying few things. So suppose I would want to print, calling in an Apple phone. Right now over here, this is getting printed. In the same way, we would be doing something. We would be printing over here that messaging in an Apple phone. Right now over here, I need to just correct this. I've made a spelling mistake. Right, so calling in an Apple phone, messaging in an Apple phone. Right now over here, we have specified these two things. Now how would we be able to access these things? Let us see that. Now for this, what we would be doing is we would be creating a new class, and I'll name this as test phone. Right now we would be testing phones. So what we would be doing is we would be creating an object of Apple phone. Right, so Apple phone app, Apple ph equals to new Apple phone. And over here, now what we would be doing is we would be calling in the methods defined in Apple phone. Right, so Apple phone dot call and Apple phone dot SMS. right? Now, if I run this code, you would notice that this is executing and it is printing these two things, right? Now, let me just go back to Apple phone and make some changes. So if I'm making some changes, those changes are getting reflected over there. You can see that these are the two changes that are reflected. Now in the same way, let me do one thing. Let me create another class that is this, that is say Android phone, right? So it covers all the Android phones. So Android phone. Now over here, again, we would be specifying few things. That is, first thing is implements, say phone, right? Now over here we would be specifying few things. Now you can see that again it is telling me that we need to implement unimplemented methods, right? So these are specified. Now we can specify the things that we would want to do. Say I would want to print Android phone calling, right? Now over here in the same way we would be printing something over here, that is say system.out.println, and I would be using this, that is say Android phone SMS, right? So these are the two things that I'm doing. Now I'll save this. Now coming back to test phone, what things do we need to do, right? So here what I would be doing is I would be specifying Android phone class. I would be initializing it over here. So Andro PH, right? So Andro PH, and over here equals to new Andro PH, sorry, Android phone. Now over here you would notice that I can call the method that is called so andro ph dot call, and it would be going with this in the same way andro ph dot sms, right? Now let me just run this code. So control F11, that is a shortcut, and you can see that these are the two things getting printed, right? This was something normal. Now whenever we are dealing with the interface, we can do something. So this is one of the ways that we are doing. Now we would be doing something. Instead of going with this method, we have another method as well. That is when another method for declaring a, or you can say that initializing a object, right? So what is that method? So the method is pretty easy. Over here, what we would be doing is instead of using a class name, we would be using interface name. So phone phone equals to new. Now we have the option of initializing Apple phone or Android phone. So let us just go with Android phone right now. Now over here we are creating an object and we are assigning it to a reference of interface, right? Now what things we can do with it? So let us just see that phone dot call and phone dot SMS. So what it would be printing? Let us see that. Right now you can see that over here it is printing Android phone and Android phone SMS, right? So Android phone calling, Android phone SMS. So how it is doing actually? So the thing is that whenever we have specified some functions inside the interface, right, and those functions are implemented by implementing class, then what you can do is that you can say declare interface, okay, interface reference, and that can be assigned with the object of class that is implementing it, and with the help of that interface, right, interface reference, we can call the say normal methods which are defined inside this interface, right? Now over here the thing is that we can do something. What we can do, so say I can change the object as well. Phone equals to new Apple phone, right? And over here now what we would be doing is we would be calling in the same methods again. So these are the two methods. Now as I'm calling in these two methods again, so you can see that over here it is printing this, that is calling in an Apple phone, messaging in an Apple phone. Now let us do one thing. Let us have some more classes implementing the same thing. So I'll be having one more class implementing the same thing so that it would be more clear to you. So say Blackberry phone, right? Again, it would be implementing the class that is, sorry, it implements the interface. So implements phone, right? And here what we would be doing is we would be specifying these things. First of all, we need to add unimplemented methods, right? Now over here we need to specify few things. So what things do we need to specify? That is, say system.out.println, and I would be printing something that is Blackberry phone calling. So Blackberry phone calling, and in the same way I would be printing system.out.println, and here say Blackberry phone SMS, right? So over here this is done. Let me just save this, and over here in test phone I would be changing the object now. So let us just change the object phone equals to new Blackberry phone, right? This is done, and over here I would be calling in these methods again. So I need to call in these methods. Now let me just run this, and you can see that in the end it would be printing Blackberry phone calling and Blackberry phone SMS, right? Now this is how you can say interface, you can declare an interface, you can define things inside it. And right now we have specified two methods. We can specify something else as well, that is say caller ID, right? So public void caller ID, right? And I've specified it. The moment I save this, all the classes show us an error. What is the error? So there is some unimplemented method that needs to be implemented, and you can see that this is provided. Now you might be confused why there is override written. First of all, what is this override and what is this? Right? So whenever there is something written as @ before the method name, right? And this is called as annotation, right? So this is the part of code, but this is not executed with the code. What this does is it defines that there are some things we are doing, right? So this is not a comment, but this is something which allows us to declare few things before, say, this tells us how the function is executed, right? Now over here we can specify the caller ID thing. So system.out.println, and I would be printing something over here, that is Android phone caller ID, right? And this is done. In the same way we would be going with this as well, that is the Apple phone. So add unimplemented methods, and here we would be printing in, so system.out.println, and I would be printing in over here Apple phone caller ID, right? And in the third case, that is Blackberry phone caller ID, right? So add unimplemented methods, and here we would be printing, say system.out.println, and here that is Blackberry phone caller ID, right? Now let us just try executing these things inside test phone. So first of all, let us save everything. In test phone, what we would be doing is we would be specifying this thing, that is phone dot say caller ID, and I would be specifying it everywhere. So phone.caller ID, phone.caller ID, and this is done, right? Now let me just run this, and you can see that these are the things that are getting printed as well. Android phone caller ID, then over here Apple phone caller ID, and in the end Blackberry phone caller ID. In Android phone caller ID I've made a spelling mistake, so Android phone caller ID, and this is done. Now this is how we can specify things. Now what if I would want to specify a method that is specifically for this particular class, that is Android phone? That is, we have something that is public void, say we have Google Maps for Android phones only, right? Just consider it. We have Android, Google Maps for Apple phones as well. But right now, I'm just specifying this thing for this, right? Now over here, what we would be doing is we can print out this, say, so sys out, right? And we can print Google Maps for Android. Now over here, this is the thing. Now I would be doing something. I would specify Apple Maps over here. So let me just specify them. Public void, say Android Maps, sorry, Apple Maps, right? And here we would be specifying Apple Maps. So system.out.println, and here we would be specifying Apple Maps, right? So this is done. And suppose Blackberry does not have that feature, right? Just for a moment. And over here in testphone.java, what we would be doing is we would be trying to call the method that we have specified in Android phone, that is Google Maps. So if I try this over here, say phone dot, you can see that I can try calling Google Maps, but if you notice, I'm not getting suggestions, right? What mistake have I made? Why it is not showing me suggestion for that method, right? Now the thing is that, let me just do something. And what is that thing that I'm going to do? Let me just show you. First of all, I'll just do one thing. I'll change this. This is not phone now. This is, say, a phone, right? Now Android phone, a phone equals to new Android phone. If I do this, you can see that a phone can call in Google Maps, right? Why object reference of Android phone can call the method specified in Android phone, but the object reference of interface cannot call a method specified in the implementing class, right? So let us just run this once, and you can see that this is executing. Now the thing is that the difference is that whenever you have something like this, in that case, this is a method custom created by the Android phone, which is created by Android phone and only for Android phone, right? So we won't be having this particular feature in the, say, specified in the interface. Now whenever it is not specified in the interface, we cannot call in those methods, right, with the help of interface. So again, if I do something over here for Apple phone, we won't be able to do that. So phone dot Apple Maps, you can see that it is not showing us, but the moment I change Apple and say normal phone to Apple phone, it would start showing me Apple Maps. And you can see that it is showing me Apple Maps now, right? Now this is a phone that is Blackberry phone, so B phone. Right? And if I do something Blackberry phone, so this would be executing again. But now the objects are created by object references are created by those classes only, rather than going with the interface, right? Now the benefit of using an interface is that we have the methods which are implemented by the implementing classes on their own ways, but not the custom methods created by them, right? Now over here, let us just use this concept somewhere else. So where we would be using this concept, let us see that. Now what we would be doing is, let us just try opening different browsers with the help of code, right? So I'll be doing this thing, dynamic browsers, right? Now in dynamic browsers, we would be specifying few things. First thing that we would be needing is main method. So main method. Now inside this main method, we would be declaring few things, right? But before declaring few things, we need to do something. That is, we need to go to properties of this particular project. And here in properties, we need to add external jars. So we need to add all these jars that are available over here. Apply and close. This is done. Now we can start declaring things. But Before that, let us go to the official website of Selenium, that is seleniumhq.org. So seleniumhq.org, and over here, what we would be doing is, we would be, say, going to the download section, right? And here, we would be doing something, that is, we would be going to the Java doc. Now, for Java, we have Java doc. For other languages, we have API doc, which tells us how this API works, right? Selenium is a API, that is application interface, which works for us, right? Now, over here, you would see few things. Now, let us just quickly go to something, that is Firefox driver. So, over here, we have this Firefox driver somewhere over here. So Firefox binary, Firefox driver, right? Now over here in Firefox driver, you can see that this is a class Firefox driver, and you can see that it has implemented interface, that is Webdriver, right? It has implemented other interfaces as well, but Webdriver is an interface which is implemented by Firefox driver, right? If I go to this, you can see that this is a Webdriver interface, that is interface. Now in the same way, let us just go for Chrome browser. So Chrome browser is over here, Chrome options, Chrome driver, right? So Chrome driver, and you can see the same thing, that is Webdriver is implemented by this, right? Now over here, the thing is that how would we be able to work with it, right? Just give me a moment. So over here, this is a Chrome class, right? And it is implementing the same interface, that is Webdriver, right? Now in the same way, other classes would be implementing, for example, say Internet Explorer driver and Edge driver. So let us just go with Edge driver first, and you can see that it is also implementing the same interface, right? This is about Edge driver. We have other drivers as well. So say Internet Explorer, so IE driver, and that would be somewhere over here. So HI and Internet Explorer driver, right? So you can see that it is also implementing Webdriver interface. Now in the same way, other drivers would be implementing. So let us just quickly go to Webdriver interface, and it tells us that what classes are implementing it, right? So Chrome driver is implementing it, Edge driver, event firing WebDriver, then Firefox WebDriver, Internet Explorer driver, Opera driver, Remote WebDriver, and Safari WebDriver. So these all drivers have their own significance. For example, Chrome driver is for Google Chrome, Edge driver is for Microsoft Edge, event firing WebDriver is for some special functions whenever we have to fire some events, right? Firefox driver is for Firefox browser, Internet Explorer driver is for Internet Explorer, Opera driver is for Opera browser, Remote WebDriver is for remote connections. We will be studying about this as well, and Safari driver is for Safari browser, right? Now let us just do one thing. Let us try this concept over here in the code. So what we would be doing is, we would be specifying few things. First of all, we would be specifying a string type variable. So string, and I'll name this as browser name, right? And the browser name is this, that is Mozilla, right? So I have specified Mozilla. Now what I would be doing is, I would be having some, say, conditional stuff. So if, what is the condition? So if condition is this, that is browser name. Now whenever we have to compare something, whenever it is a string, so what we need to do is, we need to specify something. We cannot go with this method, that is equals to and some data. It won't be doing that. Instead we need to do something, that is we need to use a command dot equals to, okay, and what data? So we need to specify data over here, that is Chrome. So if it is Chrome, what needs to be done is, say Chrome driver, right? Driver equals to new Chrome driver, right? This is what we used to do normally. Let us just go with this thing first, right? And suppose after going to this, say after opening this browser, we need to do something. We need to open a page. So driver.get, and what is the URL? So say the URL is https www.google.com. Okay. Now, remember one thing, whenever you're specifying something over here, whenever you're specifying a URL over here, make sure that you're specifying a fully qualified URL. Now, the question that would come into your mind is, what is a fully qualified URL, right? So fully qualified URL means that there should be protocol and this should be in this particular format, right? For example, I'm going to this page, that is google.com. So you can see this thing, but if I copy this, you would see that this is the thing that is printing. https www.google.com. So this is the fully qualified URL, right? Now over here in the code, we need to specify the same fully qualified URL. We can go with google.com, which is a universal page all over the world, or we can go with the Indian page, that is google.co.in, right? Now over here, we have got to this page. Now the next thing is that what other things we can do with that, right? So let us just do one thing. Let us get some other page. So driver.get, and here we would be going to this particular URL, that is https www. So triple W should be there, .facebook.com, right? So we are going to these pages, right? And say instead of going to facebook.com, let us just do one thing. Let us go to some other website, that is rediff.com. So over here, these are the two things that I would be accessing. Now let me just run this code first. But before that, we need to do something, that is, we have not specified the else part, right? So else, and to be specific, else if block, not a else block normally. So else if, now what is the condition? So the condition has changed a bit, that is browser name dot equals, this time we would be comparing it with this, that is Mozilla, right? And over here say the same things but in a different way. So Firefox driver equals to new Firefox driver, right? And this is done. Now the next thing is this driver.get. So let me just copy it here and I'll provide it here, right? Now these two things would be executed. Let us just run this and see what happens, whether it opens for Firefox browser or Chrome browser. Let us see that, right? Now you can see that Mozilla browser is opening, Mozilla Firefox is opening, and you can see that the browser has opened. Now it would be going to google.co.in. The moment the page load completes, it would be going to rediff.com, right? And you can see that rediff.com is opening, right? Now this is about opening Mozilla browser. What if we want to open some other browser, that is Chrome? So let me just open that. So Chrome, right? And let us just execute this. So you can see that this time Chrome browser would be opening and you would be noticing some logs over here which are provided by the driver, right? Starting Chrome driver and something, right? And you can see that Chrome browser is opened. It would be going to google.co.in. The moment page load is completed, it would be going to rediff.com, right? So this is how we can work with it. Now, whenever we have opened a browser, we might want to close it as well. So what we would be doing is, we would be specifying something, that is driver dot close, right? So it would be closing the browser instance. In the same way, we can do this over here as well. So driver dot close, right? Now over here, you can see that I'm specifying some code, right? And this is executing. So this time the browser would be opening, it would be opening these two pages, and after that the browser instance would be closed, right? Now over here, let us do one thing. Let us just deal with one more browser, that is Internet Explorer browser or say Edge browser. So let us just go with Edge browser, and you can see that the browser instance has been closed by the code. It is not closed by me, but it is closed by code, right? Now over here in this page, we would be going to seleniumhq.org, the official website of Selenium, and we would be downloading Microsoft Edge driver, right? So in the downloads section, you would be able to find Microsoft Edge, right? So Microsoft Edge driver, just click on this particular link, that is Microsoft Edge driver. It will take a little bit time to open. And once it is open, you would be taken to the developer.microsoft.com page. Here, what needs to be done is we need to go to the downloads, right? And you can see that, okay, just a moment. They have changed Chromium. Just a minute. Language of all Selenium binding support Microsoft Edge Chromium docs.seleniumhq.org. Okay, this is the same page. Just give me a moment. I don't know why they keep on changing things. Okay, so over here, let us just cross check which browser version we have, right? So Edge, and let me just open this. We might be having some version of Edge installed. So here, let me just go to help and feedback, and okay, it is not showing me over here. So let us just go to settings, and we can see that we have the Edge browser version, that is 44.18362, right? Now over here, Edge 44. So it is Edge HTML, just a moment. Now over here, Edge version, just a minute, I'm having 44. Okay, Edge HTML 18.18362. Let us just go with this 18.18362. Again, it is not there. What they have done? Okay, so let us just go with this latest version, right? And here, Microsoft Webdriver, right? I have downloaded it. Now the next thing that we have to do is that we need to start working with it, right? So I would be copying this instance, copying this particular file, that is Microsoft Webdriver, and I would be keeping it somewhere. So where I would be keeping it? So I would be keeping it over here in this directory, that is A batches, and here in WebDrivers, right? So we have IE driver service already there, so we can work with that directly, right? Let us just try opening Internet Explorer browser. So first of all, what we would be doing is we would be specifying this thing, that is else if, right? Else if block. Now the condition is this, that is browser name dot equals, what is the browser name? So the browser name is this, that is Edge, right? Now over here, driver, sorry, we need to specify something, that is, now whenever it is Edge, so we need to go with this Edge driver, say driver equals to new Edge driver, right? Now over here, the next thing is this, that is we need to copy these 3 lines of code, right? And I've provided this, right? Now let us just execute this, right? And here, let me just make a change. So that is Edge now. And let me just execute it, whether it would be opening a browser instance or not. Let us see that as well. They have made something complicated right now, so I'm not sure whether the browser would be opening or not. Right? And nothing is happening. Let us just do one thing. Let us specify the binary. So system dot set property, and what is the property? That is WebDriver dot edge dot driver, right? And what is the value? So the value is this, that is the path of the WebDriver, right? Now, what is the WebDriver path? So that is this particular path, say edge driver, and actually Microsoft Webdriver.exe. Right? Now let me just copy it and provide it over here in my code. So this is the path. This is done. Now let me just try running this. Right? Over here, the code is executing and it is failing. So there is some possible issue that it won't be opening the browser instance. Let me just run it once again. So the code is not executing at all, right? So there is some issue. Let us just ignore this because we have a version mismatch right now. So this is about Edge. In the same, see, the code would work, right? Right now there is a problem with the WebDriver, so that is why it is not working. Now you might have noticed one thing. I did not specify this thing over here, right? That is system, sorry, not error, system dot set property, right? And say WebDriver dot Jeco dot driver, right? So WebDriver dot Jeco dot driver, right? So why I did not specify this thing, and again without this why it worked, right? You might be having this question in your mind. So the thing is that this worked because I have done something. Let me just tell you that thing as well. First of all, we need to specify the path for Jeco driver. So this is the thing. Let me just specify that. So over here, we need to specify this thing, that is Jeco driver dot exe, right? Now over here, this would be executing normally, but the thing is that why it was executing earlier as well, right? So let us just see that. Now let me just run this once, and you can see that it is executing. Okay, I've not changed the browser. So what thing I've made? Okay, it was not going because I made a change at wrong place. Just give me a moment. Say Edge. Okay, my bad. See over here, now we have changed the correct thing. Now might be there are some chances that WebDriver would work, right? And the code is executing. It is working well. Microsoft Edge browser is opening. It is going to the page, that is google.com. Whether it is going or not, let us just see that. Right? Still the instance is opening, so we don't know what else, what other things it is going to do. And you can see that it is still working. Right? So first thing, it is not working well. So what is the issue? Let us just see that. Now over here, for Microsoft Edge HTML, you can see that they have made some changes. So first of all, we need to go to settings. We need to go to update and security, and we need to select developer mode, right? So over here, let us just go with this. Let us just see that once again. Settings, next thing, that is update and security. So settings, privacy and security, and here we need to enable developer mode. So it is not showing it over here. Let us just see this in advanced. Website permissions, open, and this is this. They keep on changing things and they don't let the people know about it. Earlier it used to work properly. I don't know what is the issue now. Okay, so I'll be coming back to this issue tomorrow. Let me just check it once, what things they have changed, whether my browser needs to be updated, because they have shifted to Chromium. That is this WebDriver, say the Chrome platform, right? That might be the thing as well that I need to go there and check this, right? So over here, let us just ignore this for a while, right? And over here, let me just go with the Internet Explorer, right? I just want to show you something. That is why I'm going with this. What I'll do, I'll just copy this code and I'll specify it again and I'll make some changes. So this time the browser name equals to IE, right? So it would be opening IE, and over here, if I do not want to provide this line, this is okay. So Internet Explorer driver and Net Explorer driver, right? And for the same, I need to specify it over here. So Internet Explorer driver, right? This would be working fine. Now, Internet Explorer is something which works sometimes, which doesn't work sometimes. So what things do we need to see? Let us just see that. And again, it is opening Microsoft Edge. They've messed up this time. Let me just cross check it once, what things they have changed, and I'll just let you know in the next lecture. I've just closed this instance right now. Okay, so just ignore this part right now. The thing that I wanted to discuss is that I'm declaring the same things again and again. I'm specifying these three lines again and again. Right now, the thing is that there are only these three lines. Whenever we have more things to do, there would be a lot of lines. We cannot specify those things again and again. So with the help of an interface, that is WebDriver interface, we can do something. That is, we have specified the browser, but before that we would be specifying something, that is WebDriver driver. Okay, we can do something else as well. So instead of specifying it over here, we can specify it over here. Say static web driver. Okay, now over here this is specified, right? So if I remove this particular part, this would work here also. So if I remove this particular part, this would work again. If I remove this particular part from here, this would work again, right? And if I remove this particular part, this would work again. Now the next thing, that is these three lines. Should I need to keep them everywhere in the if else part? So the answer to this is no. I would be keeping them over here. I'll remove these three lines from everywhere. So these three lines, remove these three lines, remove. Right? Now you can see that our lines of code has decreased, right? And it has drastically decreased actually. Earlier we were wasting at least 12 lines of code, right? Now over here in the maximum of 27 lines, we have the whole code working. Now let us just change the browser first. And okay, I have not specified IE. So let me just run it over here. And let us see whether Internet Explorer is opening up or not. You can see that Internet Explorer is opening up and it would be going to these pages. All we have to do is that we need to specify a few things. That is the browser name that we would want to open. See, it has given us an exception. That is failed to navigate to this page, failed to navigate to google.com as well. So why it failed? The thing is that whenever you have Internet Explorer, you have to work with Internet Explorer. There are few things you need to do. Go to this, that is tools, then Internet Options. Here in Internet Options, you need to go to this privacy, okay, and security. Here in security, what we need to do is that you need to choose one thing, that is Internet, and set the level to medium. Disable this enable protected mode and click on OK. This would give you a warning that this would put your computer at risk. Just go with it and you're done. Now over here, are you able to see my screen now? Guys, you are able to see my screen?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Now over here, what we would be doing is we would be restarting this browser. Let me just run this code once again. And you can see that this time the code would be working fine, right? So it would take a little bit time to open the browser once again. and it has failed. Let us just see that why it has failed. Sometimes it fails, and unexpected error, protected mode settings are not same for all zones. Okay, so let me just go with this thing again. So we can go with internet options directly. See, Internet Explorer driver works normally, but the thing is that sometimes it causes a lot of issues. So Internet Explorer custom level, let me just go with this. Just disable protected mode everywhere. Okay. So let us just go with this. Let me just try running this code again now. And I hope so this time it works. Okay, it is working fine this time, right? And you can see that google.com is opening. Then it would be going to rediff.com, right? There is a basic configuration that you need to do once, and then you're good to go. And you can see that Internet Explorer is doing these things, right? And in the end, it is closing the browser as well, right? Now, if I change the browser, say if I change it from Internet Explorer to Chrome, it would be doing the same things for Chrome, right? Now, over here, you can notice that it is opening Chrome, right? Now let us do one thing. Let us see other things as well, that how the things are going around. You notice that I opened Java doc, right? I opened Java doc for Selenium, right? So this is the Java doc. Now over here we have specified a lot of things. We are seeing a lot of things. Let me just go to this page once again. Right, so this is the main Java doc of Selenium, right? So what it tells us and why I was showing it to you, the thing is that it tells us a lot of things regarding Selenium. Right now we are not getting code suggestions for Selenium, right? So it is showing us, it is not showing us. If I see that over here, say if I go to this new Chrome driver, it is not showing us anything. It is just telling us that this is how we can do it, but it is not showing the documentation regarding it, right? So we would be adding the Java doc, but first you can see that I'm just changing the browser name here, and that is reflected over everywhere, right? We can do something. We can print out this as well. That is system.out.println, and we can print starting browser. Which one? So over here, say plus browser name, right? And it would be printing it over here. Now, as I told you something that I would be I've already discussed it about it, but we have not shown about it. So say I've not mentioned about it. So the thing is that here, as I told you, system class static. So system is a class which is a static type class. Over here we are using it. You can see that I'm using this system.setProperty, system.out.println. So system is a static class, and its functions we can access directly, right? You can see that this is JDK 1. It is available since JDK 1.0, and there are other things as well, right? Now this is a static class. With the help of this, we can say call out the functions directly, right? So we have a function out.println, and over here we have a function setProperty, right? Now over here we are able to work with these. Now the next thing is that I showed you something here. So we are not able to see code suggestions. So how would we be able to see code suggestions? That is pretty easy. Right click over the project, go to properties, and look for the client's combined main file. This is the main Selenium jar file. All you have to do is that expand it. Here on the Java doc location, just double click on it, open it, and provide the path that you have copied, right? Click on OK and apply and close, right? Let me just show you what path you need to copy. So this is the main page of Selenium, that is seleniumhq.org. And on the downloads page, you would see that Java doc. So click on this. After this, the link that would open is the main link. Just copy the link before index.html and copy this. Now you can see that it would be showing me code suggestions. So if I go with this, right, that is Chrome driver. You can see that it would be suggesting me few things. Chrome driver, so creates a new Chrome driver using the default server configuration, right? So over here it was for Chrome driver, now it would be showing me for Firefox driver, right? And you can see that this is for Firefox driver, this is for Edge driver, right? So we are getting suggestions now, right, which were not available earlier, right? So this was for today's lecture. In the next lecture, what we would be discussing is, we would be discussing about how Selenium works on page source, right? And how we would be able to analyze the page source. Now the next thing, how we can analyze pages in Chrome, Mozilla and other browsers. Then we would be discussing about how we can, what are the different types of say tags and their attributes, right? We have ID, name, attributes. So we would be discussing about this and the other things, right? So this was for today's lecture. If you have any queries, you can feel free to ask.
Hey Abhishek, can you explain the static web browser because the connection got lost at that time?
Okay, so over here, let me just go there, just a moment. So see, in the last lecture I discussed about static and non-static. And if you notice over here, let me just close this today's project, otherwise it would confuse us. You can see that there are some files, right? So in car class, we specified few things. Price was non-static, name was non-static. Whenever we have to specify something non-static, this is normal. Whenever we have to specify something is static, right? This means that this value would be provided directly, right? So we don't have to use a object to access this, right? So over here, if I go to test car, you would notice that I was calling in car.wheels directly, right? Car.wheels, right? Here you can see that car.wheels. So wheels is something which is declared as static, right? So we can access it with the help of class name directly rather than initializing a object and accessing the data with it. Okay. Instead, if we have something declared as non-static, what we have to do is that we need to declare an object first and then we need to access that variable. But in the case of a static thing, we don't have to specify object, we don't have to declare an object. What we have to do is that we just need to provide the class name and the object, say item that we would want to use, for example, a function or a variable. Okay.
Yeah.
Just try it once yourself. Yeah, your voice is breaking. Hello. Amruta, you can type your question because I'm not able to hear you properly. Hello.
Today's interface example.
Your voice is breaking. I'm not able to hear you. Your voice is breaking. I'm not able to hear you. Okay, interface example. Now let me just close this particular class, sorry, project, and let me open this particular project.